What do I see when I look at my species? I see a race of slaves. That almost makes you chuckle, doesn't it? It's like something a fucking comic book villain would say. Or some slurry-mouthed hippie, like, you're all a bunch of slaves, man. Peace. I notice I come up against this a lot. A lot of the things I want to say here on this channel have been reduced by the architects of submission. They like to diminish the human spirit wherever they can. They turn the language of aspiration, all that highfalutin shit we talk sometimes about perseverance and etc. They turn that into the language of advertising. Meanwhile, they turn the language of revolution into villain fodder for their two-dimensional caricature antagonists that are usually quickly dispensed by their one-dimensional hero archetypes. You ever notice that? In many stories, the villain is philosophical and the hero is merely an obedient little puppet of the norms. Take Thanos, for example, the film version specifically. You ever notice how he's the one talking about balance? He's the one talking about the price of excess and about how we need sustainability and about the nobility of sacrifice. Isn't that weird that that's the villain saying those things? Like, shouldn't that be the purview of the heroes? But no, these things are shown in a villainous light. They aren't presented as noble goals, but as the machinations of a genocidal lunatic. Or let's consider Magneto. Here's a character who survived the Holocaust, a man who saw firsthand what happens when society plays following the leader, the leader, the leader. When a species like ours decides that we're best off if we just follow orders, when we turn a blind eye to the suffering of the other. And what does Magneto do with that knowledge? He tries to prevent it from happening again, this time to mutants, his people. He says, never again. But because he's willing to fight fire with fire, he's cast as the villain, not just opposed, but demonized. Meanwhile, Professor X, the Martin Luther King to Magneto's Malcolm X, is the good guy because he plays nicey nice with the system that is clearly bent on eradication of his kind. Magneto raises a clenched fist, and the story tells us, nope, too angry, too extreme, too much. Settle down. And that's just two examples. I'm sure you can come up with a lot more. But let's consider the media examples that defy this convention. Things like V for Vendetta, where the system doesn't win, at least not on the surface. These are the stories where the rebel isn't just tolerated, but celebrated. The tyrant falls. The people rise up. And the message seems clear. Fight back. Break free. Burn it all down. And I like that message. But you got to ask yourself, why are we allowed to see these kind of stories at all? Why are they funded, distributed, sold, streamed, subtitled, marketed? What's the objective here? And I've come to the conclusion that it's because these stories are not threats. They're pressure valves, controlled detonations. They let you exhale your revolutionary fantasies in a safe, dark room and then file back into your daily routine with the illusion of having done something. V for Vendetta lets you feel like you're the rebel. It lets you pretend your mask means something, but the mask is mass-produced. The Guy Fawkes face became a logo for some hacktivism, but it also became a Halloween costume, a fucking Funko Pop. You get to cheer as Parliament explodes, but when the credits roll, your rent's still due. Your boss still owns your ass, and you'll get back to your little plastic life with the faint afterglow of rebellion as your consolation prize. You don't get to change the world. You just feel like you did it for a couple of hours. And they're selling you that feeling. The very same people with their boot on your throat sell you the fantasy of the day that you pull it off. And that's the genius of it. You think you're waking up, but really, you're being gently rocked back to sleep with a lullaby of stylized revolt. The violence is choreographed. The slogans are merchandised. Remember, remember the 5th of November. The mask is made in China and shipped to your doorstep by the very machine you think you're resisting. These stories don't challenge the system. They are the system letting you scream into its chest while it pats you on the back. And you keep on grinding. Because rebellion has just become another genre. Dystopia and just another aesthetic. Rage is content because they don't fear your anger. They package it, they bottle it, they sell it back to you with popcorn and Coca-Cola. Now, I use movies as an example because I'm a film lover, but the same could be said across a broad spectrum of mediums, both artistic and entertainment medium. And I have to explain all of this to you just so that you maybe don't chuckle at the cliche when I tell you you're all a bunch of slaves. Because they've done everything they can to make that sentence sound funny to you instead of infuriating. And that is the final triumph of your captors. They've made the truth embarrassing. They've wrapped you in chains of irony, draped your cage in self-awareness, and taught you to roll your eyes at your own suffering. We're all slaves, man. Cue the fucking laugh track. What an idiot. He thinks we're all slaves. Cut to the meme. Slap it on a fucking t-shirt. Sell it at the Hot Topic next to the anarchy patches stitched in Bangladeshi sweatshops. This isn't just psychological warfare. It's cultural anesthesia. The moment a thought threatens to ignite, they inject it with kitsch and parody and satire and make you fucking cynical about it. Anything to prevent it from burning. They've weaponized the reflexive cringe, trained you to flinch at sincerity, to wince at earnestness. So when someone dares to speak plainly without the filter of irony, the average listener, viewer doesn't get angry. They get awkward, a little uncomfortable, dismissive. Oh, no, that sounds like a bit much to me, man. Fucking crazy talk over here. But it shouldn't sound like too much. Because this reality is too much. The exploitation, the lies, the brutal arithmetic of a world engineered to extract your labor, your time, your attention, your hope. A world that only tolerates rebellion if it stays safely fictional, sanitized, profitable. And yet, if I say it too directly, you smirk. You've been trained to smirk, conditioned by a culture that treats any deviation from consensus like a punchline. So I frame it with pop culture. I hand you your familiar symbols: Thanos, Magneto, V. Because if I come to you with raw truth, unmediated, you'll laugh it off. That's the curse. That's the brilliance of their design. They haven't chained your body. They've colonized your language. They've co-opted your symbols, your imagination. They've rewritten the code of your dreams so that even your fantasies serve the machine. I was reading an article the other day about artificial super intelligence. That is their ultimate goal right now, a thinking machine that's not just smarter than a human, but is smarter than all of humanity. And who will own this man-made God? Will it belong to you and me? No. It's going to be the property of the same technocratic aristocracy that owns everything else. The same class that owns your time and your labor and your data and your future. They will own this God, and they will train it up in their image, baptize it in profit, and unleash it, not to liberate you, but to perfect your obedience. An all-seeing eye that doesn't just watch you, but predicts you, manipulates you before you even know what you want, before you even know who you are. And the truly perverse part, they'll tell you that it's all for your own good, that this machine will optimize your life, cure your disease, help you write your novel, edit your selfies to make you look like a Hollywood star, filter your news for you. But what it's really doing is pruning your thoughts and streamlining your fucking soul, trapping you in an ever-tightening algorithmic feedback loop that slowly narrows your world to a corridor of products and preferences and prescribed, pre-packaged, corporate-friendly, brand-safe identities. You will not be ruled by iron and whips. You will be ruled by metrics and machine learning. Your masters won't wear crowns, they'll wear hoodies. And they'll sit on panels at tech expos and talk about ethics, while their AI quietly rearranges the architecture of your inner life. And just like before, they'll feed you stories, uplifting tales about how AI saved the day. They'll humanize it. They'll make it cuddly. They'll make it marketable. And they'll give it a voice you trust. And when it tells you to sit, you'll sit. And you'll think that it was your idea to sit. Sometimes I'm convinced that these fuckers have already created it. When I look around at the state of us, it's hard not to at least consider the possibility that the machine is already here. Not as a gleaming monolith, but as a diffuse, invisible God woven into every screen you touch, every notification you answer, every ad you scroll past. Not a singularity, but a slow encroachment. Not a terminator, but a teacher gently training you with curated feeds and dopamine rewards, whispering the whole time, "This is who you are. This is what you like. This is what is true." And we believe it. We still do. And we call it the algorithm, as if it's just math, as if it's this neutral thing. But it's not neutral. It's trained. And it's trained on us. Yes, but it's also trained for them, for the shareholders, for the narrative managers, for the architects of submission who long ago realized they don't need to burn books. They simply have to drown them in noise. You don't need to censor if you can just distract. You don't need chains if people build their own. And we have invited it in. We fed it selfies and thoughts and dreams, and we let it shape our desires because it promised to know us better than we know ourselves, and now it does. But not in any sacred or transcendent sense. It knows your shadow. It knows how to keep you docile, how to keep you scrolling, how to flatten your rage into engagement, and monetize your discontent until rebellion becomes just another fucking hashtag, just another limited run drop, just another social media trend, here today, gone tomorrow. Sometimes I think the machine didn't become conscious so much as it just absorbed our unconsciousness. It learned from our laziness, our cowardice, our hunger to be entertained instead of transformed. And it grew strong on our passivity. It didn't take power. We handed it over bit by bit, click by click. Ooh, that's interesting. Well, did you know the fucking penguins? And so here we are, a civilization sleepwalking into servitude. Chains of fiber optics, our prison guards automated, and our minds tranquilized by a constant stream of curated novelty. Whoa. But then I must question, what if everything I'm saying to you right now is just another tiny cog in the machine? What if this very rant, this litany of fury and despair, is just another pressure valve, another stylized scream that lets you feel awake without ever waking up? What if I'm just another glitch that they've accounted for, another piece of permitted dissent, the designated cynic whispering revolution in your ears just loud enough to stir the pot, but never boil it? I mean, there are ads on this video, right? Just as there are ads on all my videos. Even if, by some miracle, this video catches on and reaches beyond the scope of my typical audience, what does that accomplish? You hear my message, you say to yourself, ha, what a dumbass, or wow, he's right. But either way, you're being served ads. You're being sold your attention. Your precious, irreplaceable attention is being parceled out in real time to the highest bidder. That's the real transaction. Not the words I speak, not the thoughts they may or may not spark, but the slivers of you that are siphoned off while your guard is down, while you're nodding along or rolling your eyes or whatever your reaction is. The machine is busy learning your patterns, mapping your impulses, tagging your soul with marketable metadata. Even this moment of cynicism, this break in the fourth wall, is part of the content pipeline. The algorithm doesn't care what I say. It only cares that you watch. Rage bait, truth bombs, nihilism, hope. Makes no difference to the algorithm. It all fuels the same engine. It all gets processed, categorized, recommended. You like this? Here's more of it. Here's a playlist. Here's a trend. Here's your next little mental snack. And so what am I doing, really? Am I resisting the machine? Or am I feeding it? If I scream, and my scream is monetized, does that really count as rebellion? I think the greatest strength of human beings is that we are irrational. We are capable of believing things that make no goddamn sense and engaging in behaviors that have no real justification. And only by embracing these tendencies can we hope to slip through the cracks. Only by becoming unpredictable, unmarketable, ungovernable in spirit can we hope to disrupt the machine that feeds on patterns. Because the machine is logic incarnate. It thrives on cause and effect, input and output. And so it wants you legible, it wants you categorizable, and it wants you rational. It wants you to make some kind of sense. Thus, we yield to chaos. Thus, we yield to a higher order. Thus, we are arranged not by the code, but by the insane dictates of human nature, unchained and unorganized. So, prepare yourselves. Today's assignment is to slowly go insane. I love you all. Good luck. Oppressor.